So all that Ayurveda is saying and yoga is saying is it's not hard work, it's putting yourself in the rhythm of nature, paying attention to nature. And one way that we can more easily pay attention to nature in a practical, functional way, earth, water, fire, air, ether, the Panchamahabhutas, they call them the 5 great elements. Generally speaking, we want to have a lifted energy, a lifted posture. Take the pressure off things. So that requires enough muscle tone to do that. So you got to work out a little bit, especially as we get older. You can't expect it to be easy without putting in effort. This is just how it is. It's absolutely true in all of the yoga practices, but just in general. And so that upfront effort of building your core muscles, that, and then from the yogic context, that means you have a easy enough ability to work with mulaband, the root lock. And so that's essential as you go along in working with yoga asanas in practice, to really work with these postures, really work with these kriyas. It involves learning over time to work with the muscle locks. It's not hard. It just, at first you're just like, what the fuck are we doing? This movement and the eyes and all that. And so then it says, like, root lock, this I don't even know what I'm doing with my hands, and it's weird, and what's going on. But over time, that stuff is actually more on the surface level of things. And the deep, I find, at least my experience, the more interesting work to me is on the things that aren't always changing. The kriyas can change all the time. But what's not changing are the fundamentals. And what I'm talking here are fundamentals. And so I find that by putting upfront effort, it makes everything so much easier and more enjoyable. Then you can sit in a meditative posture because there's core strength there. Now that the core strength is there, no big deal to lift up my chest a little bit and release the shoulder blades because there's good foundation there. Easy. And you can sit comfortably on the earth. You can feel comfortable in the body. This is the idea of the mulaband and creating a root line. That's what I don't rush into the cat-cow necessarily. Feel it. Feel your root line. Feel how you're connecting to the earth first. The more of the hatha yogis, and I'm talking in the Western world and how yoga is taught, they're much better about this in the Kundalini yoga world. When they really get into it, they feel deep into it. They know how to use their locks in certain types of ways, with that type of not rushing into it, within that context, but really like connecting. In this case, in a kriya, even as simple as cat-cow, if you take that moment to kind of connect your life force to the essentially the life force of the earth element. And it's not really some esoteric concept. There's only 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. By earth element, we mean that which is stable, that which is solid, that which doesn't move easily, that which is heavy, that which gives stability in life. And one expression of that is the earth herself. But the element is something more subtle. And so no matter where you are, you can first take a moment, connect in. This is foundations, fundamentals. You connect into the earth element. Cat-cow is so much better. Because you're just not rushing into it, phoning things in. So when emphasis, my experience, my preference, when emphasis is put on the fundamentals like this, earth element, you have to deal with earth element every single day. Whatever the kriya was isn't going to matter later on when you're in an argument with your spouse. But the earth element will. You see what I mean? It transfers into life more easily. Because I have to deal with my fire element, I have to deal with my water element, I have to deal with my air element, and I have to deal with the ether element. The earth element and the water element, they can make a person moody. It can get stuck there a little bit. They can also make like the sweetest person. The sweetest moods come out of that earth water element. It can be heavy and depressing, or it can be sweet and the greatest kindness. And it's all the earth water elements. You see? So fire element can either be like sharp and burning, mad, jealous, envious. These are hot emotional energies. That same fire element can give us such a sense of like light, and by light I mean sense of the wisdom that you need for life, the sense of purpose, the epiphanies that we have. These are also coming from fire element, when we can see things more clearly as fire element, because fire has to do with, everything has to do with heat and light. Light is like photons, how you see things, but images that appear. And the thing about the human psyche is you're always creating an image of oneself. We are all always having some image of ourselves that is held by the subconscious mind as our sense of ahankara, our sense of identity, our sense of what we are. We all have it. You can't stop the mind from having an image of itself. You see what I mean? That's how the yogis talk about it, is that you can't ever turn that off. So there's always, from ether element, air element, there's always going to be a narrative, sound. You're always going to have some image, fire. You always have some feel, water, of what you are, and what all this is. So these are the elements. Earth element, it gives you the tissue layers of the body and the part of your body that you can feel and touch, the structure of it. Earth, that's what it's important. It's here only for an amount of time, and then it's going to be done for. So that the idea of yoga and Ayurveda is to try to keep it alive as much as possible. And that means it has to be given something. There has to be work up front, not just deal with it when it goes wrong. That's one way, that's fine too, but it's more difficult. Because when something's gone too far wrong, it's that much harder to get back in the other direction. This is just basic Ayurveda. So all that Ayurveda is saying and yoga is saying is it's not hard work, it's putting yourself in the rhythm of nature, paying attention to nature. And one way that we can more easily pay attention to nature in a practical, functional way, earth, water, fire, air, ether, the Panchamahabhutas, they call them, the 5 great elements, of which the building blocks of really all of life as we know it are the organism that is the human body and mind, the organism that is this whole biosphere of the earth, and the Gaia, this Gaia principle, this organ that the entire earth, and really even then the universe seems like it may be like some living organism, some living web of network of intelligence of some biological source. There's life force. And so by paying attention, earth, water, fire, air, and space, it gives you a certain a medium through which to explore nature in that way, in which to experience our nature in that way. And you realize, I'm a little more fire creature. And so I tend towards getting pissed off, or being passive aggressive, or being really competitive, or being very passionate, or having strong opinions, these types of things. Striking energy, but it's intelligence. People with fire element have strong, great intelligence. Definitely. Sharp, bright, know things. You don't even know how they know things sometimes, but they know, and they don't even know things. Sometimes they don't even know why they know things, but they know things. You know what I'm talking about? So the beautiful thing of all this is that what yoga, tantra, Ayurveda are really all concerned with is purification of the 5 elements. Because I have to deal with them. You can't turn them off. You can't turn off the mind, cause it to stop thinking. That's no way. That thing's going to keep moving. But you can give it this kind of channel to flow through. Everything goes my way. You know what I mean? You can try that, but then always, do you have the Shakti of that statement? 2 different things. You could kind of cultivate it maybe, if that's the mood that's kind of in the dharma of your life at that time. But maybe Saturn sitting on top of your moon or something like that, that everything goes my way might be a little difficult to get to some days. So there might be another mantra that would be helpful. I'm just being creative. That's what I'm saying. There's no one way to do it. It's tuning into our lives and being creative about it. Shaping our mind, shaping our lives in the way that we best see fit for ourselves. But having good ways to consult wisdom, to consult our own inner wisdom, one vertical relationship with gravity, purification of the 5 elements. You won't have any problem knowing the life direction if you're patient enough. I don't think so. So it's really cool. So when you purify earth and water, instead of that depression, you get more of the sweet devotion. The moon tonight in Anuradha Nakshatra, maybe one of the most devotional parts of the whole sky. It's about like divine friendship. Anuradha is a section of Scorpio. It's scorpionic, mystical, devotional, fiery devotional. Good. Anuradha. It's a triumphant gateway covered with like leaves. Is beautiful. Or do I have that wrong on the triumphant gateway? So anyways, doesn't matter. Triumphant gateways are always welcome. So, right? It's never a bad symbol to bring to your mind. And that's all this stuff is. It's symbols, you see? And so even if we're just being, chronically angry, we're working with symbols in that way too. The mind's always paying attention to something. It's always in one mode or another. So what Yoga and Tantra is really interested in, reason why we're purifying the 5 elements, is so that you can shape the mind in a more joyful, happy way. But also, that requires to shape it in a more real way. And that's the difficult part, because reality means it's not creating any facade. It's not trying to do anything in particular. But rather, how are we shaping the mind? By having more and more meaningful experiences of ourself and what we're all about and what our life is all about. And that happens slowly over time. But when doing this type of work, then all the activities of your life, all the dramas that are happening in your work life, all the dramas that are happening in your domestic life, all the dramas that are happening in your inner life that only you know about and you haven't even told nobody, except maybe your therapist. All of those things become kind of grist for the mill of this kind of blossoming process of becoming more and more and more and more dwelling in reality, being real, trusting the reality of things. And so that means it can't just always be going my way. It can't be stuck on any one mode. That's why I think like mythology is so helpful and important, because it shows you all the moods. So it shows you all the stories, all the modes. So you can look at the different constellations and it shows you all the mythological modes of being. And you can find those to be true, that come true in our lives. But then you can take the glorious modes on and you can feel how you are like a warrior. Totally. And not only that you need to be because your life requires it in order for you to be happy. Sometimes that's the case. Sometimes it's not a warrior mode. Sometimes you've been maybe warrioring too much. And it's got to become like now like a softening mode. And something where now that mode is like more of like a feminine, intuitive, just flowing, sitting back and say, I don't know what's best for me. Like Guru Nanak is, whatever pleases thee, that's the best for me. Pisces ascendant, Pisces. Whatever pleases me, that whatever pleases thee. And who is he said? Who is thee? It's Mother Nature herself. It's that which gives life to Mother Nature. That's called just the transcendent beyond thinking. So whatever pleases thee, that's the best for me. It's like I'm gonna just put my sails up and let the winds of whatever, the winds of this Dharma just take me. But that's a Shakti there. It's one thing to have it as an idea or philosophy. It's another thing to have the mood embodied to where you can feel that as a genuine, this is the mythology that is happening in my life. And everybody has that. I saw this Bob Dylan thing earlier. And they asked him, like, what does it feel? It was old MTV interview. And back when MTV was fucking awesome. and they were asking about a legend. He said, you know how Bob did it. I suppose everybody's a legend at some point if you live long enough, you know. He was just saying that, and I really agreed with him. Like, I felt like he was really, you know, couldn't feel that everybody has their mythology. Everybody's life journey is indeed heroic. To come out of a birth canal, it's insane. You did that, you know. You came out of or there was an operation to take you out. Either way, you grew in this like womb of a woman. And out of that we come into these body organisms. And at some point we will go through the other door. 2 doors on each side of this life. There's the door of the birth canal, and it's like the door of the death canal. They're both canals. Like you would go to Venice, you know, and get in the canal. That's maybe your death canal can be like Venice. I think so. I think it can be. Why not? I mean, maybe you don't like Venice that much, but you can choose some other cool canal. Some other canal that you like. Totally, those are reasonable imageries for our life. There's some imagery already in our minds, subconsciously or consciously. We have some image that the word DEATH provokes. It just arose in everybody's mind. It's not necessarily a visual image, like you can see something, but there's an image. You see? This is how this is architecture of the mind from the yogic psychology point of view. That's earth, water, fire, air, ether. The different types of narratives and images are very much colored by the elements, the tattvas. So it's a simple language to work with in order to become more happy by being able to shape the mind in such a way. Do you know what I mean by shape the mind? By shape the mind, really it means that you take on the idea that the mind in its natural state is clarity. That mind in its natural state is clarity, like mind itself. But it's the waves of thoughts and the waves of emotions of which are all patterned. Don't we have patterned emotions? Patterned emotions, we tend to feel a certain way about things in our life. So our emotion waves are patterned. Our thought waves are patterned. Yeah, good. Some of those patterns, beautiful. You grew up in the South. You have certain patterns that are Southern, like south of the U.S., like me if you grew up. I like much of those. And then some of them are not so great. But these are just cultural patterns. You know, then you have familial patterns like you notice. Like I love those insurance commercials of the people becoming like their parents. I know we're in Nevada City and nobody watches TV. But everybody at home, y'all know what I'm talking about. But I love that because they're talking about like homeowners insurance and like they're preventing people from becoming their parents. And you have this counselor that's helping them not become their parents. I like it quite a bit. Because that is kind of what happens really in a certain way if just you leave on the default settings. And you don't maybe take part in some pattern interruptions. And so pattern interruptions are nice because which ones are we interrupting? The ones that don't really represent us. You see? And that's a mysterious process to go on the journey of trying to decipher who is me. Because I'm stopped believing that all these things that I've considered to be me are me because they keep changing. You're a son, or you're a daughter. You got a girlfriend, you got a boyfriend. Then you don't got a girlfriend and you don't got a boyfriend. You become a mother, you become a father. But then maybe you're no longer a mother, maybe you're married, then you're no longer, maybe you're what you thought was successful. And then you got there and you find out it's not that great actually, and then you feel like you're not successful. These are patterns, and it's how we identify. And so eventually, we hopefully figure out that all those things are just things that are in fluctuation, but they're things that we very much do identify with because we come into this life with such strong karmas. And that's what you can see it in the horoscope. So the really strong parts of the horoscope, the strong karmas are there. It's not just you can change with positive thinking those things. That's a more active process to change patterns like this. And so that's the beauty of it. People don't like it because then you look at self-exploration is difficult. And that's why people get into something like astrology and they feel like they have trash horoscopes. But they don't. Nobody does. You just feel that way because you're involved in self-exploration and you're being real about your neuroses. You're being real about how you're trying to be real. More and more about how you're creating yourself suffering. How you're creating suffering in your life via your patterns. And it's taking responsibility for them. And it's surrendering the tendency to blame outer circumstances. It's tough. It's difficult. It's courageous to do it. But you have to do it in little baby steps because you have so much compassion for yourself. To take on that journey. Powerful, isn't it? And so, but that journey is the journey of the blossoming joy. And that's why it's always worth going through. Just like it's worth going through childbirth. Nothing's easy about children, but anyone who has them would never trade it else for the world. You might not want to do it again. But it's nothing more precious, isn't it? And with life, creativity, love. So this journey of self-exploration and noticing the difficult things, that's what I mean by being real. Then when you're actually more and more being real, I think you will genuinely say, everything goes my way. Because you'll see through it and we'll realize that the whole time everything was always going your way. Definitely. So to experience that is what to me, what yoga, tantra, Ayurveda, Jyotish, all these things are about. Get into the river current of your life. Let its mythology come open, but you can't sidestep the difficult mythology, the dark mythology. The fact that you got to travel through that death door coming up. So, you got to get into the Venice Canal, and it's got to be genuine. But I feel like that, I definitely feel like someone like Guru Nanak comes along. Like, this is not a grim thing, this death, not at all. And so there's this really sense, this is glorious. But it's mysterious. And it's transcendent. If it wasn't, then we'd all already know what it was all about. But we don't. It's a total mystery, isn't it? But isn't it so beautiful? We have experience of when our loved ones pass through that door. It gives us verification because we can still feel them. We can even still communicate with them. And sometimes they can even still communicate with us. It's a very mysterious thing. Isn't it heroic? Isn't it? But we're just get so mundane in it. Like, I'm talking me too. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. It's just a mode we get in. It says, how do you cope on planet Earth? I'm just pointing out how difficult it is. And sometimes you just need relief. I'm gonna watch these. I'll get stuck on TikTok for like 75 minutes straight, laughing my ass off. But that's why I don't go to it much, because I'm not having too much fun inside there. And so it's not an uptight thing, you know? It's if you just, then here's, to me, the thing that makes it all come together is just, you're in no rush at all. There's nothing you're trying to accomplish, actually, because the only thing that can be accomplished is natural blossoming, and that always has its own time. But it is absolutely a cooperative experience. I got to be involved in that blossoming process. I can't just sit around and let it happen. It's also a courtship. It's also a me wanting to be happy so much, wanting to experience love so much that I'm willing to go into the darkness. I'm willing to not keep these certain things in the shadows. Those things, and nobody, they're in that. That's the dramas that are in our own private space of our own inner world. Those dramas. And this has to happen so slowly, little by little. And all of a sudden, instead of it being this thing where we thought it was like self-improving, and we thought it was like all of our processing all of our stuff, and I'm always just so much stuff. Instead, it becomes this type of, I'm becoming more and more joyful, and less worried or anxious. So now the work has all of a sudden transformed into something that's really not, it doesn't have the quality of work anymore. It doesn't mean it's not difficult, but it's not the same thing as work, because there's just this love in it. There's something you do because you love. Usually doesn't feel like work. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Best easy way to stay in touch with us. Hit the subscribe button here. You'll see our videos when they come up. If you enjoyed this one, hit the like button. It'll help more people see it, help the channel grow. I appreciate you watching.